good afternoon from Birmingham Assay Office. I'm Marie Brennan. You've probably seen my face promoting my first Instagram Live. This is my colleague Nina.
Hi, I'm Nina. I'm from the marketing team, so I'm helping Marie with the live today, answering any of your questions. If you've got any, please let us know and we'll be answering throughout the live.
Great, so lovely to see you all joining us. Thanks for all the waves, you make me feel comfortable. Right, so we're going to give it a few minutes just to enable people to, join, receive their notification, join, grab their coffee. We've got ours. Do you like our Anchor mugs?
I know.
We love them, we really do. So we've got a coffee, we're raring to go, guys. And it's great to see Amber and Orange. Hello, lovely to see you. Gemology Obsession, you were with us last week. Great to see you join the live.
We've got lots of exciting offers and things as well to tell you about today for everyone that's live. So stay tuned for that.
Absolutely. So shall I just kickstart by telling you a little bit about the history of the Assay Office here in Birmingham? We celebrated our 250th birthday last year on the 31st of August 2023. We were founded in 1773. So we're really proud that, bear with me, I'm just going to turn the camera a little bit. Really proud that for 250 years, Birmingham Assay Office has been here, protecting the consumer by testing gold, silver, platinum and palladium, and giving the consumer that ultimate protection that when they buy a piece of jewellery that's described as 9 carat gold, for example, that in fact it is exactly that. So a really important piece of consumer protection that we're carrying out here. And 250 years on, we do more than just hallmarking. We have a fully equipped gem lab. We have a jewellery and watch valuation division. We have an analytical lab where we're offering a range of different analytical testing services. So we've grown over those 250 years and we're really proud of the Assay Office that we have here today. Right, so I think we're 3 minutes in. Are we good to start? Or should we give it a few more minutes?
Just talk a little bit about what do you do? How long have you worked
here? Okay. So I've got a colleague here prompting me. So I have worked here at the Birmingham Assay Office for 20 years, believe it or not. And before joining the Assay Office, I spent 17 years working for what was then the British Jewellers Association and is now known as the National Association of Jewellers. So for 37 years, I've been knocking around the jewellery quarter.
Got lots of industry experience then to tell everyone about.
Yeah, we can talk a lot about hallmarking and hopefully, really answer some of the questions, unravel some of the myths and get everybody, to fire their questions, and we will be delighted to answer them. But also just to make, what we will do is go right back to basics in this session, because there are people that call us every day that, ask questions that we assume you guys know the answer to, but actually that's not always the case. So assumption isn't always the right thing. So we will go back to basics. So bear with us. If some of it is stuff that there will be people in the live that might not know the answer. So we'll cover as much as we can.
Yeah, we've also just been asked as well if this is going to be recorded and we can share it later, which it will be. So any questions that people have, we'll be able to answer and then we'll post it later on. So if you do miss anything, then don't worry, you'll be able to catch up later on.
Okay, great. So we're 5 minutes in. Hopefully everyone is with us. What I'm going to do is just talk a little bit. I've talked about the history of the Birmingham Assay Office, but actually hallmarking dates back much, much further into history. It actually dates back to the 1300s. So it was instigated by Edward I. And the reason it was instigated is the very same reason we have hallmarking today, and it is to protect the consumer. So it's guaranteeing that purity of the item is what it's being purported to be. So, it's a really old form of consumer protection that we as UK consumers have kind of come to accept. we take it for granted, but there are countries across the world that don't have a hallmarking system and don't enjoy the same protection that the UK hallmarking system provides. So we believe it's one of the oldest forms of consumer protection, and and that's what we are about, giving the end consumer that guarantee.
Yeah. So I've got a quick question, Marie.
Go for it.
If I am a jeweller and I have my own workshop at home and I currently make gifts and things for friends and family and I want to start selling online, do I need to get hallmarked, and what is that process? Right,
okay, so what the Hallmarking Act says, it's a very, very meaty piece of legislation, but in summary, the Hallmarking Act says that if you are selling gold, silver, platinum or palladium, you have to submit it for hallmarking before you offer it for sale, unless it falls under a certain weight. So I'll talk about the exemption weights that make the item exempt from hallmarking. But in principle, that is what the Hallmarking Act says. It says that if it's a gold item and it's weighing more than 1 gram, that's the exemption weight for gold, it has to be submitted to an independent assay office for testing and hallmarking. And if it's not hallmarked, it's an offence to sell that item and describe it as gold.
Okay, so it is a legal requirement.
It's a legal requirement, yeah. So it absolutely is. So I'm going to just touch on the exemption weights because it's important. So gold, as I've said, the exemption weight is 1 gram. If it's beneath 1 gram, then it can be sold as gold without a hallmark. However, the Hallmarking Act still applies. So if you're describing it as 9 carat and it's under 1 gram, it doesn't need a hallmark. It still has to be absolutely 9 carat to put it on the market. The exemption weight for silver is very different. The exemption weight for silver is 7.78 grams. So there's a lot of silver that goes on the market here in the UK that doesn't get hallmarked because it falls beneath that 7.78 exemption weight. The exemption weight for platinum is 0.5 gram. Most of the platinum that you see on the market is going to be hallmarked because it's mainly wedding rings in platinum, and they're generally always going to be over 0.5 gram. And then the exemption weight for palladium is 1 gram. So anything above those weights, Nina, it doesn't matter whether you're trading online, you could be trading at a craft fair, you could be trading in a retail premises. You have to comply with that piece of legislation.
Okay, how does that tie into, jewellery with gemstones and things like that? Does that change any of the hallmarks?
Right, so an item that contains a gemstone, let's take a sterling silver ring with a semi-precious gemstone. It's the metal weight that drives the requirement for hallmarking. It excludes the weight of the stone. So if the metal weight of that item is over 7.78 grams, it then has to be hallmarked. So you can include gemstones, but in terms of determining whether the item needs to be hallmarked by weight, the gemstone weight is excluded from the calculation.
Okay, perfect. And we've just had another question as well, asking what if we've never had a hallmark before? I suppose that's about the registration process. Is it an easy process?
It's so easy to register. Honestly, we will take you through the process. It is so simple. And in fact, by just joining this live today, we are going to give everybody that registers from this live free registration, right? So that's a 10-year registration. That's registering a sponsor mark for a 10-year period. It would normally cost you £96 to register, and we're going to give you that free today. So just by joining me today, you're going to get free registration with Birmingham Assay Office. So,
and to go about that, sorry Marie, how do I go about doing that? Do I send us a DM? Or what do I do to get that free registration?
Yeah, sure. So you can contact us in a variety of different ways. You can direct message us. You can drop an email to our generic customer service inbox, which is customerservice@theassayoffice.co.uk. We do need you to quote a promotional code, and I'll just hold that up so you can all see it. So
Insta20.
Insta20, simple and straightforward. So we need you to quote that code in order to qualify for the the free registration. And just think about it. You won't have to re-register that sponsor mark for 10 years.
Yeah, I can see everyone saying thank you, and you're welcome. Thank you for joining our live. I think the easiest way, because we're already on Instagram, is to direct message us on here, so we know that we'll all come from the live. So I think everyone go straight after this and send us a DM with Insta20, and we'll sort that out for you today, which is exciting.
Great. And then the actual registration process, guys, is really, really simple. There's a couple of forms that we need you to complete. The important thing is that when you register, you're actually registering a unique sponsor mark that will be unique to you. So I'm just going to hold up my dealer's notice here. So the Hallmark includes a sponsor mark. Some people call it the maker's mark, and back in history it was commonly referred to as the maker's mark. But it's called the sponsor mark, and it's the initials of the individual that has registered with us, and that gets applied alongside the remainder of the Hallmark on every item that you send us. So just talking about the registration process, we're going to ask you to tell us what initials you'd like to register. If it was me, it'd be MB, which I always think's amazing because we've got Matthew Bolton played a majorly important part.
You're on the same level, Marie, it's fine.
A majorly important part in the formation of the assay office 250 years ago here in Birmingham. So MB would be my initials. And then we give you a selection of shields, outline shields to choose from. So you can play a part in creating your unique sponsor mark. And that will be yours, unique to you. There will never be two sponsor marks live and in use at the same time. And isn't that special? Because every piece that you submit for hallmarking will get your unique mark and will essentially brand the product to you.
It's a sense of branding, isn't it? So if I was a jeweller and I sent an item anywhere in the world, it's amazing that's tracked back down to me because it's got my branding engraved in the piece. It's really quite...
Exactly, yeah. And that's a really important part of the traceability around the Hallmark. Yeah. We get inquiries every day from businesses, individuals who are looking at a Hallmark and they want to understand who submitted that piece for Hallmarking. And our historic archive records enable us to track and confirm exactly who the sponsor mark belonged to.
Yeah, we've just had a question as well, which is a really good question, from Pinank1220. It's asking, can a foreign gold that has already had a hallmark, does that need to have a UK mark? Does that make sense?
It does. It totally. So if it's being if it's being sold in the UK, it has to have a compliant hallmark. Now it depends where it was marked abroad. If it was convention marked in any of the 22 convention member states, it can be sold in the UK without having to be represented to an assay office in the UK. But if it bears a hallmark from a country outside of the convention, or if it just bears, let's say, an 18K, for example, there's a lot of product that's manufactured abroad that comes into the UK with just a fineness mark on. That's not a hallmark. So that in that scenario, the item would have to be submitted for hallmarking in the UK. So I think the answer is it depends which country it has come from and what the mark is. And if it's a convention mark, you're good to go. I will talk about convention marks if we'd like to cover off on that in today's session. So I'm happy to take any more questions.
Yeah, we've just got another one asking, can you have a sponsor mark punch made to mark your own work before sending it for hallmarking? So can someone register now and then hallmark, say in 6 months' time? So
absolutely. So if you choose to register and you opt to have a punch made rather than a laser file, because you have the choice, you can have both if you want, but if you have a punch, that punch essentially you can retain and you can apply your own sponsor mark prior to submitting the item for hallmarking. But it has to be the registered punch that has been registered by the assay office. You can't just randomly go out there and have a punch created that hasn't been registered. You have to register the mark. We create the punch. If you want to retain that punch, that's fine, and you can apply that mark. The only thing I would say on that is if you're pre-applying your sponsor mark yourself, you don't get quite that level of consistency with the remainder of the hallmark, because we've then got to follow on from where you've applied the sponsor mark with the remainder of the hallmark, and it's all got to be lined up. Whereas if you allow us to do it for you, it will be much more aligned. But we have customers that choose to apply their own sponsor mark. That's not a problem at all.
Yeah, we've also had another question from Julie asking, do we keep the punch or does the customer keep the punch?
You have the choice. So one of the questions we ask you when you register is, do you wish to retain the punch yourself as the customer, or would you like to have it held at the assay office? You've got the choice. So yeah, either option is acceptable. But you just remember that the option is only available to your sponsor mark punch. Okay, it's the punch that the mark that you've registered. Of course, you know, the remainder of the hallmark, i.e. the fineness mark and the anchor, is very much the assay office's.
I have a question, sorry, on that.
Yeah.
Note. If you retain the punch, do you need to send it in with you when you send your item in?
If you're pre-applying the hallmark and it's the registered mark, so we get the item and we can see that your mark has been pre-applied by yourself, it isn't essential to include the punch. Some customers just automatically include it and we will return it to them. But if the mark has been pre-applied and it's the registered mark, then it's not essential to actually send in the punch.
I think it's a good time as well because Tinkerbird Designs has just joined and asked about the cost of registering. If you do want to register, you get a 20% discount with the code INSTA20 if you message us on Instagram. Or someone else asked if they can use that code if they register through the website as well. So if you send that in, as long as you quote Insta20, that has been pinned as well as a comment. So when you do send your registrations, just quote Insta20 and we'll give you that discount, which is great.
Perfect.
We also have another exciting freebie for everybody. Marie, do you want to talk about the dealer's notice?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So I've held this up to show you what the hallmark looks like, but actually this is a really important thing that we need to talk about. So if you are selling gold, silver, platinum or palladium, you are legally required to display this notice in your place of business. So if that's a physical presence, like a retail outlet, or if you're selling at a craft fair, you need to have a version of this on display. But it also means that if you're trading online through a website, let's say you're selling on Etsy or on eBay, you need to display a version of this that has been developed by the British Hallmarking Council for online traders. So this version is the glossy version that you would normally see in a physical presence, in a retail environment or at a craft show.
That would look really good at a craft show. I think
It would. Yeah, it would. Because what it's doing is it's showing your customers that actually you're complying, your product is hallmarked if it's required to be, and it's actually helping you to educate your customer on what to look for from the hallmark. So it's really, really important. Now, the glossy version that we've got here in front of us is normally £18 inclusive of VAT plus postage, but we're giving them away
for free.
So look, we're giving you free membership, not membership, where did I get that word from? Free registration for 10 years. Your sponsor mark will be registered for 10 years, free of charge, £96, and then a further £18. So I've just saved you over £100, guys.
Yeah, so again, if you message us on Instagram or if you are going to email us via the website or something like that, just, send your address and if you would like a dealer's notice, just pop that in the email and then we'll get one sent out to you.
Fab. And just to stress, the version that you need to display if you're an online trader is slightly different. So again, when you message us to request a version of this, if it's the online version that you need, just make that clear in your message because it is a slightly different version. We want to make sure that you display the correct one.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've had a question as well asking if you can register at any office in the UK or do you have to register at your closest office?
No, you choose which assay office you want to work with. There's no geographical territory. You have to choose the best, and of course I'm going to say Birmingham is. You know, we love our customers. Honestly, everyone is important to us. It doesn't matter whether you're a trader that might send one item for hallmarking every 3 months, or you might be sending 100 items. Look, we are an accessible assay office. We are very focused on talking to our customers, communicating with our customers. You can contact us easily. You know, we're available.
Yeah,
so
we'll pick up the phone, or we can do things like this as well more often if you guys like it, and like build that community with you all on here and have a little chat. Any questions, just let us know. But I think that's something we really want to focus on more, is talking to you all. So yeah, pick your favourite.
Yeah, I've just noticed that amber and orange. Oh, thank you so much. The comment was, "You are the best." Oh, that's very kind. That's very kind. But yeah, just on that note, so we should say that we actually operate for hallmarking to a 3-day lead time at the moment. And when we say 3 days, we mean 3 days. We don't mean 5 or 7. We are committed at the moment to a 3-day lead time. If you've got something that's more urgent, we can do it quicker. No problem at all. We even do a 1-hour service if it's that desperate. But 3 days is the window you would need to allow for submitting some items for hallmarking.
If I want a next day service, is there a certain time I need to drop my item off by?
Yes, yeah, definitely. So the express services are available. You have to drop it off or post it, so we get it before 9:30, let's say on day 1. So let's say Monday morning, 9:30, we receive a parcel. On a next day express turnaround, it will be ready by 9:30 the following day. So it's literally it is a next day service. But because our standard service is so quick, you know, at 3 days, I think, you know, that equally is a pretty quick turnaround. And when you think about the process that the item goes through in terms of the testing and hallmarking, yeah, I think it's an impressive turnaround on 3 days.
We've got a question from Flower Lady Jane. So she has an American sterling silver spoon, and she wants to make it into 2 pendants. So she's asking if both pendants need to be hallmarked because it's come from one item.
Yeah, so it's a spoon that's being created into 2 pendants. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, right. So there's a little bit of an added layer of information here that's really important. So if you're taking an already hallmarked item, i.e. the spoon, and you're repurposing it, and you're essentially changing its use, it has to be resubmitted to an assay office for checking and testing under the change of use rules. So I'm quite happy to pick this up directly with our viewer who's picked this up. But it's really important that you resubmit it, because essentially what you're doing is changing the use of that item, and in so doing you could potentially be adding metal to it. So we need to check that the repurposed and the repurposed item that still bears a hallmark, that hallmark still represents the item in its repurposed form. I hope that makes sense. But so it's called change of use. Really important that you follow the rules around that. But it's perfectly fine to do so. Just make sure it's resubmitted in its new form. Okay.
Kaz Hills has just asked if there is a difference in the price of a punch hallmark and a laser hallmark, and which is most popular. So I think that's a good time to talk about our laser department and the things we offer there as well.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the setup costs, when you register, you can either have a punch or a laser file. The cost is the same. Okay, so it's £132, including VAT. When you then start submitting items for punch or laser, the actual hallmarking charges do differ. So a laser hallmark is more expensive than a punch mark because the technology is more expensive and so on. So typically, if it's an outline skeleton laser hallmark, the additional cost for lasering versus punch is around 50p additional per item. If you then go to another level and you take, you request a a relief laser mark, we're burning deeper and then the cost goes up. So yes, there is a cost differential in the actual marking charge between punch and laser. So that kind of, I think, probably leads on to what's the difference and why would you choose punch marking over laser marking. So if it's an item that can withstand a physical punch, so if you think about, we should have brought some punches actually, I'll do that next time. We should have brought a punch along. So a punch is made of steel. So if you think we're using a punch to impress the hallmark onto a piece of metal, if that item is not sufficiently robust to hold that punch process, then you would flip to laser marking. So let me give you an example. If it's a hollow bangle, we know that if we try to punch mark a hollow bangle, we're going to go crashing through the metal. So we would therefore advise laser hallmarking.
It is still quite impressive though, because I personally, when I first had a look around, I would have thought that like rings and really small items would have to be lasered, but we do punch rings and they come out perfect.
Oh, definitely.
So, everyone does have a really kind of gentle hand. It's amazing how small an item can be and it doesn't have any damage or anything like that, because I imagine that would be a concern for quite a lot of people, is because obviously people are working hard on their pieces and sending them in, you don't want them to be damaged. So and at the thought of a punch mark, you think, oh, you know, you don't want any bruising, so
no,
you can understand that. But yeah, that people don't have anything like that, do they?
No, absolutely not. So I mean, we, as Nina said, we can get a punch mark on a lot of, you know, a lot of products. Some people just prefer to go for the laser marking route. Some people prefer the punch mark. A lot of it is preference, but there will be occasions where the product will drive the decision. And like I say, I'm using the hollow bangle as an example where you would go for laser marking. But the laser marks are beautiful, particularly the relief laser mark.
Yeah.
With the relief laser mark, what happens is we burn. Go back to my dealer's notice, but we burn behind the symbols, so it makes the symbols look like they're standing in relief. So you could sometimes look at a relief laser mark and think, gosh, is that a punch mark or is it a laser?
Yeah.
So yeah, the relief laser mark's beautiful. But also don't forget, we can do other things through laser marking. So hallmarking is the obvious one because that's what we're here to talk about today. But we also do lots of personalisation on items. So when your item is being hallmarked, if you want us to inscribe a message, an important date,
it'd be great for Valentine's Day coming up, or Mother's Day, get like gifts and things. I think that would be a really nice touch. Yeah,
so we can personalise a piece of jewellery. Just tell us what you want, and we can pretty much work our magic. We have a great team in our laser department, led by a very talented guy, Suki Singh, and what he can create with our laser technology is just absolutely phenomenal. Right, have we got any more questions?
Yeah, we've had somebody ask if our sponsor mark, does our sponsor mark be a logo or does it have to be initials for both punch or laser?
Okay, so the sponsor mark, there are circumstances where we can use a logo if there is within that logo a set of initials. So we have customers that have a logo as their sponsor mark, but that within that sponsor mark there is a very clearly definable set of initials. So what I would say is when you register with us, have that conversation. If the end result is that when the hallmark is being read, it's got to be identifiable. So if it's a very complex logo that you can't actually read from within a set of initials, we wouldn't allow it. So the assay office kind of will review what you're asking to be used as the logo. And if it's within the rules, then absolutely we can use the logo. But yeah, each one is individual because logos differ very much from one to another.
Yeah. Belcast Jewellery has just asked whether we cover up the cleanup after the laser hallmarking.
Yeah, so when you laser hallmark an item, sometimes there is a little bit of metal residue left after the burn of the laser mark. So we do remove that residue. So what you get back is a really clean hallmark. The one thing I would say with laser marking is that if you are using laser marking, it's best to submit the item in its pretty much finished state, because you know if you submit an item for laser marking and then you do lots of post hallmarking, finishing and heavy polishing, there's a chance that that laser mark could be removed. So get it to us if you want it laser hallmarked pretty much in its finished state. We will make sure that laser hallmark is nicely cleaned before it's returned to you.
Perfect. And then Handmade Birch has asked, she's filling out a new customer form, which is very exciting.
Brilliant, as we speak.
She's
impressed.
asked, on the new customer form,
Yeah.
there is a account number and business activity box. What does she put into that?
So the account number won't be allocated until the registration is processed, so don't worry about that. What was the other one? Sorry, the account number and
Business activity?
the business activity. You can put in there manufacturer, retailer, hobbyist, craftsperson, designer, maker. It's just so that we can capture our customer segmentation in terms of the activity that they're carrying out.
Yeah. And Gemology Obsession have asked when is our next Discovery Day. So if you didn't know, we hold Discovery Days here at the Birmingham Assay office, where you can come in, have a look around the silver room, learn about the history, and have a tour of the hallmarking floor, which I think is quite interesting as a new customer, to see the actual process.
Yeah.
Our next Discovery Day is on the 23rd of February, so in a few weeks' time. So I think we have a link on Eventbrite, but we'll post a story after this with the link to it, and then you can go and have a look and book a place if that's something you're interested in. So yeah, 23rd of February, but we host them quite regularly, so just keep an eye out. But we're always active on socials, kind of sharing dates and things. So
they are really, honestly, they are fascinating days. Craig O'Donnell, our one of our valuers, who's also a silver expert. He's just a fascinating guy to listen to. He gives a fabulous presentation on the history of hallmarking. He showcases some of the fabulous pieces in our historic silver collection. Honestly, it's well worth a visit, and it includes a tour of the hallmarking operation as well. So yeah, the Discovery Days are well worth looking at. The other thing, just while we're on that, is we have a portfolio of training courses that we're currently offering. We've just published our 2024 calendar of training courses. So we'll also post a link to that portfolio too. So there's a wide range of subjects within the portfolio, from understanding hallmarking, understanding diamonds, you name it, we've got it covered. So do take a look, and hopefully we'll see you one day at one of our training courses.
Yeah, I've just seen a few more people join as well, so it's a good time again to mention we have a discount, which is a free registration. If you quote the word Insta20 in either your email or message us here on Instagram afterwards, and we'll get you registered. And we're also sending out free dealers notices as well, which are usually £15, I believe, Marie.
Yeah, absolutely. Just saying goodbye to Lorraine. Thanks. I know you've got to go, Lorraine. Lovely to see you. Thanks for joining. Yes, so the free registration, as Nina has mentioned, with the code Insta20 saves you £96 and gives you a 10-year registration. You'll still need to purchase a punch or a laser file. So there is still a cost for you to actually register, to purchase a punch or a laser file, but you're getting the registration free of charge. £96 is what you're saving. And then we'll also supply you with a glossy version of the dealer's notice that will save you £18. So yeah,
great to take to your craft fairs and things like that, or the online version like your Etsy shops and things. Really great to show. But talking of punches, we've actually got some punches here, Marie.
Brilliant! As if by magic, the punches have arrived. Excellent. Right. So these are the punches. Let me start with a straight punch, just to keep it simple. That is a straight punch, and on the face of that punch, it's going to be really difficult, I think, but on the face of that punch will be the initials that you register with us free of charge. The registration's free of charge. So let's say MB, as I use it as my example. The initials and the outline shape that you choose will be cut onto the face of that punch. Can you see that? Do I need to come closer? Yeah, and then let me just refer back to this is the sponsor mark. So that's what's going to appear on the punch, your unique sponsor mark on there. So this punch here that I'm holding is probably, I'm going to take a guess, is probably a 0.5 mil. So
tiny. Would that be like for the back of earrings
yeah,
potentially?
so this would be used to hallmark an earring post or maybe a pendant, an object that will take a flat face punch. So that's what we call a straight punch. Then we go to what we call a, some people call it, we call it a cranked punch because it's cranked. Some people refer to them as swan necks. And this enables you to hallmark something that isn't flat. So you could hallmark a ring, the inside of a ring shank with this. So a crank punch is a little bit more versatile, whereas a flat face punch is only suitable for like flat surfaces. Whereas this is more versatile in terms of, you know, as I say, you can hallmark the inside of a ring shank. So that's a crank punch. But we'll talk you through this as you register. That's all part of the service we provide. We get you to order the punch that you need.
Yeah, and obviously because we give that advice as well. So say I wasn't sure whether I wanted a laser or I wanted a punch, would we give that advice?
Definitely, yeah, that's all part of the process. So as we talk to you through the registration process, we'll look at the type of products that you're creating. We're not just going to leave you to try and make the decision on your own. We're going to talk you through and advise you whether punch marking will work, and if so, the shape and size punch you need. If your product doesn't lend itself to punch marking, then we will advise laser marking, and we'll talk you through the options there. So don't be afraid. We will, you know, our fabulous team within the customer experience team will talk you through every step of that process.
Okay, Karen has asked, is there a way of finding a previous maker's mark if you've lost the information?
Yeah, there is a way of finding a previous maker's mark. You have to obviously go to the assay office that the mark was registered at. So each assay office keeps its own register of maker's marks. So you would need to know which assay office that maker's mark was registered at. But if it was a Birmingham mark, if you provide us with a graphic, but you're saying it might have been lost. So if there's no graphic of the mark available, like a photograph, then the only way we would be able to identify it is if you could accurately draw it. So we get requests every day from members of the public and businesses who are tracing historic sponsor marks. A photograph is good because we can go from that. We've got an extensive archive record, and we trace sponsor marks back to 1773 if we need to, the year we were founded. But we can only tell you about Birmingham registered marks. If it's registered elsewhere, then they'd have to contact the assay office where it's registered.
And in terms of costing, so I know we've got the free registration, which is great, but somebody has asked how much does the laser cost compared to punch and things like that?
Yeah, sure. So the setup cost, like I say, the registration free of charge. You then need to make that decision as to whether you're having a punch or a laser file. But the cost of creating a punch and the cost of creating your unique mark as a laser graphic is the same. It's £132 inclusive of that. So essentially you could get set up tomorrow with your sponsor mark for 10 years and a punch or a laser file for £132. And you get to speak to our wonderful customer experience team. So big shout out to our team there that will be on the end of the call to take your call, the end of the phone to take your call. So we've got Aisha, Seb, Vinny and Beth. And they're waiting to take your calls, guys.
And then because that is over 10 years, that equals out to £13.20 a year, which I think is a pretty good steal.
So, you know, if you buy an insurance policy, you've got to renew it every year. But, you know, your sponsor mark will be yours for 10 years. So, yeah, the annual cost spread over 10 years is good.
We also had a question asking if they were going to resize an item, would they have to re-hallmark it? So say I got a ring resized, would the hallmark still apply or do I have to get it redone?
Right, so if the if the hallmark is lost during the resizing process, then yeah, the item would need to be resubmitted for a hallmark to be reinstated. What I will say is, as an assay office, we are really conscious when we apply a hallmark to a ring in particular, that generally, if you're going to size a ring, it's going to be sized, I need something round, but if you think about a ring, right, if it's going to be sized, it's going to be sized at the 6 o'clock position. Oh, yeah, Marie's giving me a prop. There's the ring.
No one's got the ring.
When a ring is sized, the metal that is being added or removed to size it up or down is generally removed from this 6 o'clock position. So when we apply a hallmark, we generally do our very best to avoid applying the mark to the 6 o'clock position for the reason of potential resizing. So we apply the mark to the 3 o'clock or the 9 o'clock position. So we're really conscious of that here at Birmingham Assay Office, because we know that rings do need resizing. So, but if the hallmark is lost in that process, yeah, it should be resubmitted for the hallmark to be reinstated so that it bears a hallmark.
Yeah. So Kat has just asked that she's thinking of registering soon. Is there an expiry date for when we can use the Insta20 discount code by? So I'm thinking we keep it live for a week.
Yeah, a week. Yeah, so we're going to say Monday the 19th of February. So we're halfway through this week, and that gives you all of next week. So Monday the 19th of Feb, the promotional code will be available for you to use. So request the forms, drop us a message, drop us an email, call the customer experience team. Visit our website as well, I forgot to mention that. We have just launched a new website. It is amazing. So do go and take a look, because that's another way of connecting with us. It's fabulous. We're really proud of it, so we hope you like it too. Thanks, Kat. Thank you. Yeah. Good to see you join us, and thank you for doing so. Yeah. Right. Have you got any more questions, guys? I'm conscious that I've rattled, but I hope it's been helpful.
I did have a question about mixed metals, but it's gone. Somebody asked.
Yeah, so I think it was hallmarking on mixed metals.
Shall I quickly cover off mixed metals, because it is an area that I know a lot of you work in. So we can hallmark an item that is made of mixed metal. So that's mixed precious metals. Let's take the example of a sterling silver ring with a gold accent. That's a mixed precious metal item. And you can also work with precious and non-precious metal. So let's deal with them both separately, and just as an overview. If it's a mixed precious metal item, let's take the silver with 9 carat gold accent. The hallmark that we would apply would be a full silver hallmark, and then a minor mark to indicate the purity of the gold. So a minor 375, for example. That means you can then sell that item and describe it as sterling silver with 9 carat gold. You can accurately describe it. The hallmark represents it. The key is that the metals need to be clearly distinguishable by colour or texture. So sterling silver and 9 carat works really well because you can tell the difference in the two metals. That is really important. The metals have to be clearly distinguishable by colour or texture. And the reason for that is that the end consumer needs to be really clear that what they're purchasing is silver and gold, and it's clear from the colours of the metals. If you're working with precious metal and non-precious metal, I don't know, let's take 18 carat gold and titanium as an example. Again, as long as the two metals, the precious and the non-precious, are clearly distinguishable, fumbling on that word, by colour or texture, then the item can bear a hallmark. And in that scenario, there would be an 18 carat mark to indicate the purity of the gold, and the symbol plus and the word metal would be applied next to the hallmark, again to indicate to the consumer that in addition to the 18 carat gold, there is other metal present. So mixed metals, absolutely, we can hallmark as long as they fall into those rules, and we can happily provide more information on that if you guys need us to do so.
So we've just had a few questions about whether if an item is gold filled or gold rolled. The mixed metal on that.
Right, that's not mixed metal. So when I talk about mixed metal, I'm talking about a primary a metal with an accent of another metal, so like a feature. Whereas gold plated or roll gold or bonded gold is a different scenario. So generally bonded gold would be on a silver core. So if we take a bangle, for example, a bonded gold bangle, the core would generally be sterling silver, and then gold is bonded to the surface. That's not mixed metal, so that's a different perspective altogether. And that the hallmark on that item would just be the sterling silver hallmark, because the metal, the primary metal beneath the bonded gold is silver. So I hope that answers the question. There is a difference. Gold-plated silver is not mixed metal, okay?
Okay. Yeah, so we've had another question about something being partly gold-plated. Suppose that's different to mixed metal as well.
Yeah. So you can plate gold onto a precious metal. So you can plate gold onto silver, and it would bear a silver hallmark. The gold that's been plated onto the core of silver needs to meet a minimum of 9 carat as well. That's another important thing.
Okay.
So I'm quite happy actually, because we'd love your feedback on this, but we would love to do a series of these Instagram lives, because there are honestly so many questions. And although I said today at the very beginning, let's get back to basics, and I think we've covered a lot of the basics, I'm actually feeling that you guys have got questions that really will take us to another level, which we would love to cover off I'd like to do this weekly, because I think you're all brilliant and I'm just loving the interaction and the waves and so yeah, we would happily, so we'd be interested in your feedback. And why don't you tell us what you'd like us to cover?
Definitely. I saw someone mention before that they would like to see other services, so you could bring someone from our Gem Lab or analytical lab, because we do lots of different services there, valuations, lots of different things. So
absolutely.
If that was something you were all interested in, we can definitely do that. So like just a Gem Live or just a analytical live.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We could have, we've got a really talented team of gemologists.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they would absolutely love to do a live. We could get some diamonds and nice gemstones and talk about things. So yeah, please give us your feedback on what you'd like us to cover. I'll talk forever about hallmarking, because that's my the love of my life. Don't tell my husband that, but it is. I love hallmarking. Love the Birmingham Anchor. Yeah. Right, so any more questions, guys?
A couple more.
Yeah,
let's have a look. So someone asked, going back to the mixed metals, if they have a mixture of silver and platinum, if they are textured differently, can the platinum still have a part mark?
So, sorry Nina, just give me the scenario again just one more time.
So if I have a mixture of silver and platinum, if they are textured differently, can the platinum still have a part mark?
As long as it's really distinguishable, that's the key. So I think the best thing to do is show us an example, and we will tell you whether it would. And literally, it just needs to be a quick photograph, and we will confirm whether or not that could be hallmarked under the mixed metal legislation. Yeah. The key is always to make sure that the two metals are clearly distinguishable by colour and or texture. But some people's view on what's distinguishable might not necessarily be the same as our view. Believe you me, we want to give you a mixed metal hallmark if we can, but we've got to make sure that those guidelines are fulfilled. So yeah, drop us a message, drop us a photograph, and we'll have a look at that.
That's fine. And then Diana King Jewellery have asked, it was a good question, can you hallmark components of jewellery to be made up later? For instance, a charm for a bracelet, can that get hallmarked, and then can they make the bracelet later on? Right,
no. So when you submit an item for hallmarking, you have to submit all of the components that make up that item. So if that charm is being attached to a bracelet, then we need to see it all, because we've got to check that the hallmark we're going to apply to the item is representative of all the metal that makes up that item. So we have to see all of the component parts at the time the item is submitted. Okay, so, you know, for example, we just keeping it simple, we have customers who will submit rings, so they'll submit the head and the shank as two separate components, but we've got to see them both at the same time to make sure that both of those components are of the standard that we're going to apply the hallmark at. So that's really important that we cover that.
Yeah, and then Karen has asked, how can a fine chain be hallmarked? I suppose that goes back to the different services we offer, like laser and punch and things like that.
Yeah. So a fine chain, you know, if the chain has got a plate on it, the fact that the chain itself is fine, I'm presuming you're talking about the actual the chain rather than the fineness. I'm assuming that to be the...
Yeah, I think like delicate.
I think that's a fair assumption. So delicate, exactly. But if that fine chain has got a little tag on it, for example, soldered to it, we can apply the hallmark to the tag.
Like near the clasp.
Or to the jump ring. Yeah, you would be surprised how skillful the team here are in
and
applying...
how teeny tiny they are as well. Like
exactly.
It's not in focus, but they're so small.
So 100%, we can get a hallmark on pretty even the finest of things.
Yeah. Handmade birch designs have asked, I think, about sending things in separately, if that applies to the back of earrings, about sending it in.
Yeah. So if it's an earring, as an example, we need to see the post. If the scroll is metal, precious metal, we need to see the scroll, and obviously the main body of the earring. So you can send it as unassembled, but all of those components must be present. If you're using plastic scrolls, then you declare on the submission form that the scrolls are plastic, and we will accept that the scrolls aren't present because they obviously don't need to be tested. But yeah, components are really important. Okay.
Kate and Co Jewellery have asked if they need to send solder samples.
Right, no, not necessarily. Some customers do, it varies, but the solder is tested as part of the assaying process. So when you've used solder on the item, we're going to test that to make sure it is to the standard, the acceptable standard. If you choose to include a sample within the parcel, that's absolutely fine. We won't insist on that, but just be sure that we are going to check the solder on the item to make sure it meets the standard.
Yeah.
And if it didn't?
And if it didn't, it'd be rejected. Yeah, if it's substandard solder, that will be a reason for us failing it. And, we don't want that, because that's not what you want either. So use the solder, the right standard of solder. Now, I didn't think to cover this today, but we can either cover it... There are different standards of solder that you can use across the different metal groups. If you want information on the solder standards, I'm going to be honest, I can't reel them all off because there are so many of them. But if you want me to send you what the permitted solders are against each metal group, I'll happily do so, because it's really important that your solder meets the standard.
Direct message.
Just direct message. Yeah. We don't want your item to fail assay because the solder wasn't up to standard. That's not what you want either.
Lots of people saying thank you, but thank you for joining as well. And again, just on feedback, if you have a day of the week, because a lot of people have said they would like it to be a weekly thing, so if there's a day of the week that works best, or a certain time, if lunchtime works best, or early in the morning, or maybe like a Friday afternoon or something, if people have a bit more flexible time, just let us know what works best for you, and we can work around that, and then we can just see what has the best response.
Definitely.
But just let us know on DM or comments. We're always open. But again, just to mention, we have the free registration if you message us saying Insta20.
Yep.
And if you also want that dealer's notice, which is usually £15 plus postage, we're giving them away for free. So just send your address and we'll get them sent out to you, which is great for your craft fairs or the online version for like your Etsy shops and things. So yeah, just make sure you remember to message with Insta20, which is available for 1 week.
Yep, until Monday the 19th of February.
I think it's Monday the 12th. Let me have a look. I'm
Well,
sure-
next Monday is the 12th.
Monday.
I'm giving you a week's grace, guys. I'm giving you...
Yeah.
It's not. No, Monday is the 12th. Next Monday is the 12th. So I'm giving you the rest of this week and all of next week to get your registration forms in. Right, we're going to stick with the 19th,
We'll
yeah?
stick with the 19th.
Yeah, because if it was the 12th, it'd be...
Yeah.
We want to give you a bit of time to get those forms filled in and to start interacting with us.
Someone.
Lunchtimes are good. Karen, thank you for that feedback. Oh, and thank you, Diana King Jewellery.
Yeah.
And for everyone who's commented on the who's given us positive feedback.
Yeah.
Like we said, it was our first Instagram live, and we would love to do more. So keep engaged, keep following us, and we will do more without doubt.
Yeah, definitely. Some people said Wednesday afternoon, someone said lunchtime, so
Yeah.
probably around this time works well. But again, any feedback, just send it across. But does anyone have any questions? I can't believe it's lasted a full hour.
I know, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Really good. Lunchtimes are good, excellent. Thank you very much, Bella Cast Jewellery. Fab.
Tony has just asked, how do we do the forms online? So they're available on the website to download. And then you will just email them across to us.
Yeah.
So that all our forms are available on our website, and then you can either fill in the contact form on the website or just email it across. If you go on the contact us page at the top, it will say phone us, email us, or visit us. You just click email and it will set up that email for you. So yeah, that's how you can send the forms across.
Fab. Thank you so much. Great. Okay. So we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for your positive interactions. And we look forward to the next Instagram Live.